So today we're going to take a look at measuring and constructing segments. Three things that we want to be able to do. We're actually going to spend most of our time today looking at just measuring. But I will be able to use the ruler postulate. I'm going to be able to copy segments and compare for congruence. I'm going to use segment addition postulate. So right out the gate you're thinking to yourself, well, I know what addition means. I do know what a segment is. They're actually, a segment is just a piece of a line. But what about this? What's a postulate? I'm not sure yet. I don't know. What about congruence? We don't know what congruence is just yet. What about a ruler? I definitely do know what a ruler is. Here's two rulers here. So that's pretty good. I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good about this. That's the first one. I'll be able to use the ruler. And there's that word again, postulate. So we don't know what that means, and we'll take a look there. But to be able to look at that ruler postulate, you do have to ask yourself, what is a postulate? And how do I use a ruler? Now, a lot of people have seen them, and they can say, oh, this is 1 inch and 2 inches. But what about all those little marks in between? And what are those? Well, start with the postulate. Postulate is something that we're going to hold to be true. Very similar to an axiom. I've heard it before, an axiom of truth. But an axiom. An axiom. So we're going to post up and say, this is what is true. And you're just going to get to accept it. And that's what we're going to build everything on. We're going to have a layer of things that we say, this is true. And because these things are true, we can use it to advance a little bit farther. Then the next question is, how do I use a ruler? How do I use a ruler? This one's broken. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But how do I use a ruler? A lot of people like to start right here on the edge, but you actually start right here at 0, and then you can count up and say, well, I can tell you how big this piece is. Looks like 1, 2, 3, about 5 inches. But I can't live in abouts. I can't live in a world of abouts. I need to know. If you're going to send me up in a rocket, I need to be exact. And so that's what I'm looking for. How do I use a ruler? Well, lucky enough, here we go. We have a ruler, kind of. This one's obviously been enlarged. Down here on this side, we have what would be centimeters. And here we have our ruler. Once again, not starting, we have a little edge. Well, let's just see. First off, this long piece looks like halfway. That's 1/2 inch. What about this? That's like a quarter of the way. It's a quarter of an inch. That's 3/4 of an inch, and then that's going to be 1 inch. Well, what about all these other ones? How much of an inch is it? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 makes an inch, which means each of these tick marks are 1/16 of an inch. We'll set our point P at 0, and then we'll find out where it ends. Here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that would be 9/16 of an inch. 9 out of 16 of an inch. 9/16 of an inch. For PS. That'd be a nice way to write it. QR, on the other hand, once again, we're going to start right at Q, all the way to R. Now, 1, 2, 3, that part's easier than 1, 2, 3. 3 out of what? 3 out of 16. So that's going to be 3 inches. So QR here. 3 inches and 3/16 of an inch. Now, oddly enough, whenever you're talking about measurements, you do usually leave it as a fraction. You don't write 3 point something something of an inch. So you would leave it as 3 3/16 of an inch. unless you're in here. So then here, same thing, same ordeal. You look at this piece and say, all right, let's see, we have 1 inch, 2 inches. Not quite 3, so we know that's 8, because it's halfway. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 2 and 14 out of 16. So NM is 2 and 14 sixteenths of an inch. Now, I don't really like 14 out of 16. I'll write 7/8. You would reduce that fraction to 7/8. 2 and 7/8 of an inch. That's pretty much it. Pretty simple. Same thing if you're using centimeters, except it's not out of 16. Centimeters happens to be, we'll go ahead and measure one in centimeters. Centimeters, same thing, except it's not out of 16. So I flipped it, and centimeters happens to be in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So centimeters is in base 10. We'll take a look at that piece. So here we have 7, 1, 2, 3, and 3/10 of a centimeter. 7 and 3/10 of the centimeters. I don't know about you. I have an older brother, 2 younger sisters. Sometimes they break my rulers. They look like this. You know, my older brother's, what, 40 something. He's still breaking my rulers. That's all it takes. So the question comes into play. How do you measure something with a broken ruler? So here we obviously do not have 0. And this ruler, we could break it right here. How do you measure it? Well, for me, personally, what I would do, I would use the numbers that are left. We'll take a moment. Okay, so let's take a look. Thanks for commenting. Thank you. So, how do you measure something with a broken ruler? I'm going to find one piece of my ruler. I'm going to stick with inches. I'm going to find a number. Any number doesn't really matter. It can be 1 and 1.5, 1.5. It can be 1 and 6/16. I'm just going to stick with 2 because it's nice and even. And I'm going to say, well, this is at point 2. At 2 inches. Now I'm going to say this is at 3 and 1, 2, 3. We'll call it 4. 3 and 4 out of 16. 3 and 4/16. If I reduce that 2/8 or 1/4, 3 and 1/4. That's not right. Yes, it is. 3 and 1/4. Does that mean that AB is 3 and 1/4 of an inch? No, it doesn't. Actually, what it does mean, though, is that from A to B, well, how can I figure this out? I'm going to say, well, it's actually the absolute value means, so here we have AB. AB is equal to the absolute value of wherever B is minus wherever A is. And so AB is equal to the absolute value of 3.25 minus 2. So AB is equal to 1.25. So AB 1.25 inches. And that's the distance from A to B. Something to kind of note here, This is a line segment AB. And when we talk about it being a line segment, we use it with a line on top. And when we talk about AB having an actual physical distance, we don't write the segment on top. That's just something to keep in mind. So the question now, the ruler postulate. The points on a line can be matched 1-to-1 with real numbers. The real number that corresponds to a point is called the coordinate. You've heard of coordinates before? Like on a number line, or on the old X and Y axis. Alright, so a point on a line. The distance between points A and B as AB is the absolute value of the difference of the coordinates of A and B. Let's take a look what it looks like. What that means, or what it looks like. What it looks like is this. Whatever number A and B is, the number, like, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to figure it out. Here's A, here's B. Whatever number this corresponds to, and whatever number this corresponds to in my broken ruler. If I take the absolute value of x2 minus x1, I get the number. If you're still confused, what it's saying is this. Subtract. Subtract. And take the absolute value. It's pretty simple when you think about it like that. So a lot of words, that means subtract and take the absolute value, and that tells us how much this is right here. AB is 1.25 inches. I could write it in right there if I wanted to. That's what that means. 3 3 1/4 inch, that would be my x2. My x1 would be 2. So looking forward, literally it says, look at this number, look at this number. Subtract them and take the absolute value. Look at this number, look at this number. Subtract them and take the absolute value. And that's how far A to B is. That's the ruler postulate.